Hey guys, it's here bringing you another video and welcome to a little bit of a different video, but it's one we actually kind of like unlocked during the subathon. This is about the holiday I just went on. So it was the kind of goal in the subathon was like kind of do like a video about the holiday. I'm not the type that's going to be with a camera vlogging and stuff. So what I've done is I've taken a lot of photos. I've taken some video clips and I'm just going to talk about the holiday. I've done this a couple times over the years. Last one I think would have been like, not including the riot trips, the Berlin and then League 10. I think I did one like when I went to Rome last in like 2018. So yeah, so in essence, this holiday was me and Queen Pleb's honeymoon / baby moon. For those that don't know, we are expecting our first baby. Baby will be coming at the end of the year, and we're getting married in a few months' time. And by the time we get married, Queen Pleb will be too pregnant to travel. Hilariously, on traveling even now, on the way home, the Greek airport staff was like, "How pregnant are you?" They were just double checking she was actually okay to fly. Because yeah, you're not allowed to fly basically when you're too pregnant. And Queen Pleb is very much showing now. She has the baby bump. So yeah, but anyway, I've got the map up here just to kind of give you an idea of where we went and what we kind of did. So we went to Rhodes. So Rhodes is or Rhodos, I guess the proper pronunciation, is a Greek island, quite far away from Greece. It's much closer to Turkey. Not it's a bit north also of Egypt. So it's like a 4-ish hour plane ride. I've been there before, and that was actually part of the reason we decided to go again. With Queen Pleb being pregnant, we didn't want to go somewhere completely new. We wanted a slight bit of familiarity. Just so, with being pregnant, we kind of know what we're expecting. So that's kind of why we went there a couple years ago with my family. But when you're going on a holiday with a bigger group of people, different people want to do different things. So there were a bunch of stuff that we didn't end up doing on that holiday that we actually did this holiday. So and 2 years ago, we did not stay in Rhodes Town. This is the map of Rhodes Town specifically. We stayed in a village, we rented a car, and we actually did a bit more, let's say, island exploration. This holiday, we stayed in the town, and that's all we did. So we basically, everything we did in this trip, you can see on this map. So where we actually stayed, obviously you can't unfortunately see my mouse, but if you see on the map, there's the aquarium. We stayed basically 5 minutes south of the aquarium. Which then, if you look to the kind of bottom right, there's like a wall. That's what's called Old Town, the medieval city of Rhodes. We were a 10-minute walk from that, so we were kind of like below the aquarium and to like the top left of the old town. It was a modern hotel, really nice air conditioning. It did have a pool. We did swim a little bit, but nothing major because it wasn't a great pool. But realistically, it was a great holiday. And what we ended up doing was we explored obviously like the new town bit a fair amount, more than we did last time. But we really explored Old Town this time. We went everywhere, practically every single street. There's not many, it's not huge. We went to some places we had been before, but we also did a lot of, let's say, culture tourism. Last time we didn't do any museums or anything. We were just walking around. So this time we ended up doing the museum at the bottom of the hill. There's like the road, and by the way, I'll be probably bringing up photos, I'd imagine, potentially, while I talk about these things. Or I might just give you a brief overview and then I'll talk about more stuff in detail. But yeah, we did the museum at the bottom, I think, of what's called the Knights Road. Then we did the Grand Palace, which is at the top of that road. We also did the aquarium, which is at, again, the north tip, which was really fun. So what we did as well, we didn't aim to spend a lot of money on this trip. Again, we wouldn't actually have gone on this trip at all, if not basically for family members. We have had a very good contribution from family members for our wedding, and this honeymoon was part of that budget. Without it, we would not have gone on a holiday this year. I'm really happy we did, though. It was very relaxing. It was very chill. We did end up walking a stupid amount, like, 20,000 steps on a day in very hot weather. But I will say it has cemented the ideology of Britain is way worse in temperatures. So the temperature here was 31, 32. we've been having that in the UK recently as well. Oh, it was way better in Greece. And it's what I've been saying this entire time is a country that is continuously built for nice weather is built for that weather. You know, they have air conditioning everywhere. Everything is tiled flooring. There's not really insulation in the walls. Very large windows. It's built for it. The UK is not. So even though we hilariously we were out there and I was looking at the temperature back home, it was the identical temperature. It was like 29 degrees when I looked in Rhodes. It was 29 degrees at home. It would have felt way better in Rhodes because it's just how it's built. But yeah, let's get into what we did, kind of a bit step by step. So we flew from Stansted, London Stansted. Most of my European trips, to be honest, go from there. Sometimes not, but fundamentally, if I can fly from Stansted, I try to. For the first time ever, I actually did an airport lounge. When I was paying for our parking, there was an option to include lounge access for a discounted rate. Honestly, it was pretty good. You know, yes, it's a slight luxury, but for those that are like, oh my god, was that extortionate? It works out, I think, technically at like £38 per person. So £38 for me, £38 for Queen Pleb. But within that, all drinks are free, all food is free. It's obviously a way quieter atmosphere. You have a guaranteed table and chair because it's basically a booking that they can't let so many people in. We were actually early and they said, no, you can't come in yet because your table is currently taken. They're leaving soon. And with Queen Pleb being pregnant, to me, it was just a good thing. You know, being the honey / baby moon, it just, you know, I'm sure you've all been to airports and you can't find a seat. Airports are always designed to not have enough seating to basically force people to go in stores and spend money. So, no, I was very happy with the lounge. I might have been able to throw a clip in here or basically recording that. But yeah, I'll take, by the way, the map off there now. I might bring that up later, but just so photos have a very clear canvas of where they can go. But yeah, we for the first time ever as well, I don't mind saying, we did a package holiday, again, just to bring the costs down as much as possible. I normally don't do a package holiday. I normally, you know, book the flight separate, book the accommodation separate. But honestly, the price of this was insane. We stayed in a very nice hotel. I think it was like a 3-star hotel with pool. We had an upgraded room. We actually had an apartment with a balcony, flights, everything, transfer included, which I'll talk about soon. All in, it was like £900 or something like that for like 3-4 nights. You can't really beat that. That was crazy. Good value. So that's kind of why we went for a package deal. And it was good. You know, would I do it again? Yes. The negative of the package, because obviously they try to keep costs low, it basically means the flight times are terrible. So we left Monday. I think Monday was it the 14th? Was it 14th? Yeah, Monday the 14th. Our flight was not until 4 p.m. 4 p.m. UK time. It's a 4-hour flight, so you're technically arriving. You're arriving 8 p.m. But there's also a 2-hour time difference. So then suddenly that's 10 p.m. But then our flight, I believe, also got delayed nearly an hour. We were literally just sitting in the plane for like nearly an hour. So we actually arrived in Greece local time around 11 p.m. Then we had to go obviously get our bags. We did check in our bags, which I liked. I normally just do hand luggage, but it was way easier just to have checked luggage, especially with Queen Pleb. So that was great. We did do the transfer coach on the way to the hotel. Unfortunately for us, if I bring the map up, this isn't of the whole island, but if you can see the main road on the left side of the peak, our hotel was near the aquarium. That road goes the whole length down, basically, the coast towards the airport. Basically, everybody on this coach was not staying in Rhodes town like we were. They were staying on basically resorts on this main coastal road, heading towards the town from the airport. So we were the last drop-off on the coach, which obviously we didn't know at the time. It took nearly an hour and a half. Well, it did take an hour and a half. We got on the coach. We were sitting on the coach for 30 minutes before the coach moved. And then it took an hour and a little bit to get to our hotel. So I think all in all, by the time plane landed, get bags, sit on coach, wait, blah, 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 we got into the room around 1 a.m. And obviously local time for Britain, sorry, British time, that was 11 p.m. So we weren't exhausted by this. Traveling is a little bit tiresome, but luckily the bar of the hotel, obviously with it being a package holiday, and the partner hotel is kind of, it's a partnered hotel. They know people are checking in late, so the bar was still open. All we got was a bottle of water for the room, and then we did go to bed. So that was day one. That technically is day one of the holiday. That's one of our nights on holiday. But what it meant is we were there bright and early the next morning. Hotel buffet. So I think, again, I might have a clip to include. Hotel buffet was pretty good. Nothing to complain about. It had a good selection of, they had the basics, the bacon, the egg. They are definitely catering partially to British people. There were baked beans on offer, which I think we're the only ones that do baked beans for breakfast. They did obviously have European stuff there, the continental side, the pastries and all that, which, we had a little bit of as well. The hotel was good, I'm not going to specifically say what hotel, but if anybody genuinely is like, I would love to go to Rhodes, and if you're like, if I recommend my hotel, yes. And if someone goes, oh, I want to know what hotel, maybe I'm going to go there myself, feel free to message me, and obviously I can interact with you, and maybe I'll tell you the hotel if you are thinking about going yourself. So what we actually ended up doing on day one was going, hello, Miss Meyer. We ended up going straight to Old Town. So within those walls there, that's where we went straight away. Like, we didn't even do anything of the modern area. We went straight to Old Town. And I've got quite a weird memory that even though it was just over 2 years since we went, I could remember mostly where to go, etc., etc. My brain can just click into that. And I will say it's actually gotten better since I've stopped taking my medication, my omeprazole. So omeprazole I've stopped taking a little while ago. And the omeprazole is linked to brain fog and dementia. So I actually stopped taking that about 3-4 months ago, and I feel clear in my head finally for the last couple of months. And I could just know where I was going. I could remember. I could see where we were going. So basically, I took me and Queen Pleb. The first place we went is a leather shop. And I would, again, if you go to Rhodes, would massively recommend this leather shop. It's a bit pricey, but it's handmade leather goods right there. The guy, it's a husband and wife. The guy is Greek, the woman is Swedish, and we went there 2 years ago. And Queen Pleb, she bought her sister at the time a pair of leather gloves and a pair of leather baby mitts for her soon-to-be child. We went there in August 2023, and our niece was born a couple months later. And Queen Pleb, in the back of her mind, was it the reason we went back to Rhodes? No, but it was definitely a factor of like, oh, that would be nice. Queen Pleb wanted to get her own leather mitts and her own leather gloves and her own little pair of little leather mitts for our future kid. So that's literally the first thing we basically did. I took her straight to the leather store, and we bought her a pair of gloves and a matching color little pair of mitts for our future one, which was great. And that was really lovely. And we had a nice little chat with the guy. The woman wasn't there, the Swedish lady, she wasn't there, but we did kind of say, oh, we were here 2 years ago just after the bad fires. So we kind of reminisced a little bit, and I was like, oh, I bought a leather jacket from you this time. Did not buy another leather jacket, it's too expensive. Yeah, I was really happy we got that for Queen Pleb. I know she really wanted to get her own pair, because those are the type of leather gloves, they'll last forever if you look after them, So that's where we went. And then we went to a kind of bar restaurant. We went there again a couple of years ago, and I took her straight there, and it is a wonderful place to go. So if I bring up the map before I bring up any photos, if you look to, if you're looking in Old Town specifically, there's kind of in the dead center of it, slightly to the left, there's basically this square that is basically covered in trees. One massive tree specifically, and it's a place called basically, the Oasis Bar and Restaurant or something like that. It's wonderful. The food there is really good. The staff are friendly. The only negative is there's a restaurant opposite it that is not as nice. But the guy, and it's very normal, by the way, in Greece and kind of in Europe in general, that they basically employ someone, can sometimes be the owner. They don't do anything apart from basically stand outside of their restaurant, and they basically go, come here, come eat here, come get drinks. You look tired, come. And they basically try to usher you in. The only negative of going to the Oasis place is the restaurant opposite, that guy is really weirdly vocal. So when you're walking literally to sit down at the Oasis, he's literally saying, "Oh no, come over here, we better." And it's like, it's a bit not great. But the moment you sit down, obviously he then kind of shuts up. But it's a really lovely place. And the restaurant staff were really friendly. You know, they obviously noticed Queen Pleb's baby bump. So we had like nice little chats with the waiting staff there. And that's kind of what we did as like the first initial kind of walk into the city. I believe on the first day as well, I met a kind of dress up night, if you will. And again, I took a few photos, which was just quite fun. You know, he's out there in the stupid heat, looking pretty authentic, you know, very Greek. So I took a couple photos. He gave me his sword because I gave him a €10. You have to pay them. That's one thing. They're not just there for free. It's their job. So I gave him a €10, which is probably more than most give. So he was really good and like let me do many more poses than other people typically would get. But that was fun. We then obviously just kind of explored around. So we kind of just walked around, went into a little few stores. Again, we really were good. We didn't buy that much on this trip, and we were kind of partially thinking about not buying that much, being careful about it. But at the same time, if there was something we really wanted, we would get it. But we also don't need that much. So hilariously, the things that we actually bought the most were baby stuff. You know, our future one. This was our honeymoon / baby moon. So we did buy like 3, maybe 4 baby clothes, you know, including the leather little mitts. We bought, you know, 2 little cute outfits from this store called Orchestra. I think it's a chain, and it was really good. Some Europeans watching this may go, "Oh, I know Orchestra." Yeah, really good store. We loved that store. That was actually in the modern part, obviously, of Rhodes town. But yeah, we would definitely recommend that store. There was so much stuff that we liked. We then actually later in the trip went into a H&M. We both were in need of some change of clothes because, you know, it is hot. I got through too many shirts, so I basically was like, I just need to buy a cheap shirt. So I bought like a €7 shirt for H&M. And we bought another baby thing there because it was on sale, which was good. Realistically, for me, the biggest thing that I bought myself, I do like leather bracelets, so I bought myself a leather bracelet, and I also bought myself a Starbucks mug. If you're like, what? Yeah, so they did have a Starbucks. We only went there once. We were basically, if I bring up the map again, if you look if you look at the aquarium in the peak, the side closer to me in this camera, down that side, we walked the whole town, but basically on the side near the harbour, there is a Starbucks. So we did jump in there just to kind of get iced coffees to cool ourselves off at one stage, obviously decaf for Queen Pleb. And they have, obviously Starbucks have a range called like, I don't know, You've Been Here or something like that. But, you know, it's themed to where you are in the world. They had a Rhodes one, and I was like, screw it, I'll get a Rhodes one. So I bought that. Bracelet, the Rhodes Starbucks mug. We bought like a little boat thing for our shelving unit in our living room. Every time we go on a holiday, we try to buy this like a tiny little souvenir. We've got like a turtle from when we went to Sorrento. I think technically we bought 2 on that trip because we bought one at Pompeii, and we bought one literally, if you go on Mount Vesuvius, which is obviously near Pompeii, at the top of the volcano, which we did, there is a store right at the top, right at there. It's actually a bar, but they also sell some souvenirs there. So we actually bought a little turtle as well. We've got 2 little turtles. We have a dinosaur, I believe, from what's called the Show Caves of Wales. It's called Danorogoff Caves in South Wales. And now a little boat has joined a little display of little knickknacks from holiday. So yeah, that's kind of the substance of like just randomly roaming around, buying a few little bits, nothing major. We did buy a few gifts from family members at the airport. And now I can actually, I would say, get into the more substance of the things we did. So the big 3, oh, and also I'll talk about food. But the big 3 that we didn't do, that we really wanted to 2 years ago, but my family, I mean, they would enjoy this stuff, but it's just when there's, you know, there was 5 of us back then on that holiday. you know, queuing up, waiting. It's harder to do, I think, with more people. So we did 3 activities. I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I'll go in order with which we did them. So the first one we did was the museum. So the museum was really cool. It was kind of going on, you know, ancient Rhodes. Unfortunately, I do have some photos, I believe. This is where I was kind of encountering the derpy lions. I couldn't photograph the really cool stuff. So unfortunately, this is a more museum of like ancient stuff. And for some reason, they do not want you to photograph it. So yeah, in the majority of the rooms that I was like, oh my God, that's so cool, I couldn't take photos. They had actual staff sitting in each of them kind of really cool rooms, making sure people weren't taking photos. Again, you could probably get away with the occasional one if they're not looking, or if you had those, like, you know, the camera glasses, the Ray-Ban camera glasses, you'll be probably okay. Or if you had like a tiny little camera just strapped here, that's not noticeable. But I didn't. I was a good boy. Yeah, I kept to the rules. But yeah, it was a lot of ancient stuff. Some really cool gardens. So that was really fun to explore. It was, I think, like €6 each to get in, which wasn't too bad. But that was obviously the first of 3. The next one we did, I think, was the aquarium. So again, on the map I'll show you here, right at the top tip is the aquarium. We did know about it 2 years ago, but we just didn't do it. It was a decent aquarium, quite small, but you'd expect it not to be a very big aquarium. So yeah, it was really fun. They had a good range of, obviously, animals I'll be bringing up right now. The highlights were definitely the octopus was a definite highlight. The lobster was kind of cool, but he was like completely blended in camoed. I did get a picture, but yeah, you might be like, wait, what? You might have to pause to really see him. And then they had this kind of the poisonous, I think, lionfish, I think they're called, or angelfish. And then they had a really big tank of like groupers, I think they're called. They were huge. I didn't take photos of obviously every single thing we went in, or every single display. It was a decent aquarium. Again, if anyone goes from this video, especially if you have a family, kids would enjoy. There were kids there; they were liking it. You know, they had a few just different displays as well, that were just showing different type of animals. You know, shellfish, some shark stuff, some turtle stuff. So that was quite interesting as well. We then did pop onto the beach. It's more of a rock beach than a sand beach, but it was lovely just to look out to sea. And then the kind of final big activity we did was the Grand Palace. It's mental. So, like, it's huge. And, you know, sometimes, you know, England has very old history, and we've got old buildings that I've been around a bunch of them, and you do appreciate it a lot. But when you see something like this, like a Grand Palace built 1,000+ years ago, on an island, so it's not easy to get resources there, so majority of the resources would have had to be probably mined within the island itself. It was so impressive. So a lot of the displays that, again, I'll be bringing up photos right now, a lot of them were probably replicas from molds of the actual object, but it was very noticeable in these museums. They didn't really have glass cases protecting stuff like they would here in the UK. Even for replicas here in the UK, they would probably be protected. But that's kind of, you know, it was still cool to see everything. They did have some official stuff. They were behind glass cases, like, you know, old pottery, old swords, old tools, like a pickaxe and stuff at one stage, old armor. I thought that was pretty cool as well. So they did have some ancient stuff, but anything that was kind of out in the open, we kind of felt like, oh, that's probably a replica made from a mold of the official object. The cafe at the Grand Palace actually was pretty nice as well, so we did sit down for a drink. But overall, that was majority of what we actually did in terms of the activities. And yeah, would highly recommend realistically all 3. I think the Palace tour was a bit more expensive. That was €20 per person or per adult to go in, so that was a bit more expensive. But still, you know, I would say worth it, at least to do once to you know. I would say next time we go, obviously it's going to be a bit different. If we go in 5-10 years time, we'll have kid/kids hopefully by then, so we might want to do it again for them to experience it. But I would say, if let's say you go as a couple, and you go do the Grand Palace and you go back 5-10 years later, you might not need to do it again, because realistically it's not going to change, because it's all about ancient history of Rhodes. They're not going to change that, obviously, so we probably won't need to do it as much as we did next time, but it was really good. And then I guess the final thing that I'll kind of talk about is the food. So pretty basic. I ate pretty much the same thing every single day. So obviously I'll bring up photos. I think I got a photo of like the breakfast, like, you know, the typical plate that I made, consisted of eggs, bacon, some sausage that they had, and, you know, little random bits here and there. But then the kind of bulk of what we ate, and we did not even eat that much on this trip, because simply, again, even here in the UK, when it's too hot, I don't eat because it's just uncomfortable. So our main meal of the day, we typically had around 2 p.m. And then there was a supermarket near our hotel, and we went in there to get a few snacks, you know, a packet of crisps, you know, a packet of like croissant kind of stuff. But yeah, majority of the meals that I had were obviously gyros, whatever you want to pronounce it, or souvlaki. They're basically the same thing, but the only difference is I think one is obviously on a stick, kind of hanging down of chunks of meat, and then a gyro has kind of just a pile of meat that has been shredded from a bigger kind of spit. But fundamentally, they're the same thing. It comes with pita, tzatziki, onions, tomatoes, French fries, which some people may find weird, but that is just basically what they are. They are originally designed as basically a very cheap meal that is filling for kind of the lower income of Greece, but they've actually turned into a very big delicacy, and obviously they've made them more fancy over time, and they are amazing. I love them. So we had a few. I think I had one souvlaki, maybe 2 gyros, and that, you know, we were there for 3 main days, so those were my 3 main meals. We did obviously have a few starters here or there. We had 1 pizza at one, you know, our last day. I think it was our last day. We did have 2 main meals, which we never really did before. But one was we shared a pizza, and then later in the day we did go out and have our final gyro of the day. Or that might have been the last night or something. But honestly, really good. Would also massively recommend a starter, which basically is feta wrapped in pastry, with honey, with sesame seeds. It's quite, again, a common Greek dish. Wonderful. We quite typically ordered one of them and shared it. You know, when we ordered the pizza, we had one of those feta things to share, and then we had one pizza that we shared, and that's all we had. And it was enough. So honestly, was absolutely a great trip. Had a really nice time. You know, we had a bit of ice cream as well. So again, I think I took a bit of ice cream. I think Queen Pleb had a big milkshake smoothie once. But no, it was really good. I do feel refreshed in many ways, but I also feel like I've taken in like a good amount of culture and just explored, and that's what I also really enjoy. So would highly recommend it. Oh, also, again, if you're Greek, you'll know the brand Mythos, the beer, very good. Would highly recommend that as well. Obviously, that won't just be a Rhodes thing. I presume that will be a Greece thing, and you might be able to just get that more easily on mainland Europe. I have managed to order that again 2 years ago when we went on a family holiday. Me and my dad were drinking Mythos. My dad has, you know, had it first and was like, this is really good. And then like a few months after the holiday, I did actually order in some Mythos for him as a gift, because I knew he enjoyed it at the time. So you can get it in the UK. It's just you have to order it special. So hopefully it becomes more accessible in time. But anyway, I think that's going to be it. Again, I now need to go edit and throw in all the clips and images, but hopefully it gives you a good idea of the holiday. I would highly recommend going to Rhodos. Obviously, again, if you do end up going to the island, this is just the Rhodes town that we stayed in this time. On the actual island, there are a lot of different areas you can go. There's a place called Lindos that basically is just white marble, you know, white stone, white marble, kind of a whole town of that, and it's very picturesque, very seasidey. The only thing that we didn't really do within Rhodes town, because it was a bit too far away, in the bottom left of the map, That's basically an ancient kind of area that they have a very small, Zeus temple, very small one. I think there are a couple of like old Olympic kind of like stadium bits here and there. So we didn't do that. That was a little bit far away for us to go explore from where we were, and where we wanted to go, and that there were less roads that way, so we would probably have had to get a taxi. So we were just kind of walking. We didn't do any taxis apart from we didn't do the transfer back to the hotel to the airport. We did a taxi. That was the only taxi we used in the entire trip. Every other thing we walked. So very good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little video. There a little bit of insight from it, and again, I would recommend to go. But that's gonna be it. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace. Call down the reckoning.